everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Andrea Morris. I'm the Assistant Director for Studies at UW-Stout. And just a reminder that this session is being recorded. Um, we're happy to be bringing information to you about the Gilman Scholarship. And we have a Gilman ambassador, Samantha Raghu, with us today. And we also have one of our own students who was a Gilman or is a Gilman, and a Gilman ambassador, Hannah, with us today. So you'll hear from Hannah a little bit later in the presentation, just a little bit about her experience. So I'm going to turn it over to Samantha, and if you'd like to go ahead, introduce yourself, and you can begin the presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrea. Well, hello, everyone. It's so exciting to be here. I love getting to talk about studying abroad and Gilman whenever I get the chance. A little bit about myself. So, I am from Minnesota and I graduated from Gustavus Adolphus College in May of 2021 with a bachelor's in sociology and minor in political science. And in fall of 2019, so right before COVID hit, I had the opportunity of studying abroad in Thailand for a semester. So I will be going over a little bit of my experience, but I also became a Gilman recipient in spring of 2019, and the funds from Gilman helped push along my opportunity to be able to study abroad. So it's a very wonderful tool. So I'm very excited to be here speaking on behalf of Gilman and spreading that knowledge to you all today. I do have a tendency to kind of rush through the presentation. So at any point, if anyone has any questions or concerns, please go ahead and jump in at any given point. But yes, I will go ahead and get started. So, as Andreas told us, we are here to talk about the Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship Program. So, what is the Gilman Scholarship? So, essentially, the Gilman Scholarship is a scholarship sponsored by the Bureau of Cultural and Educational Affairs that resides within the U.S. Department of State. So, the way I like to kind of visualize this is one of those, inward outward circles. So at the core, we have a bunch of different exchange programs like the Gilman International Scholarship, Fulbright, Critical Language Scholarship Program. And then on the outward circle, there's the Bureau of Cultural and Educational Affairs. And then the outer circle, the U.S. Department of State. So overall, ECA sponsors many programs, and Gilman is just one of them. But the overall goal of these exchange programs is to create a mutual understanding between people of the United States and people of different countries as well. And while this is a scholarship, many Gilman alumni and participants become introduced to a vast network of other exchange alumni, I believe over 40,000 a year, who also had the opportunity to study abroad, and they're introduced to a network of individuals and different job openings and various opportunities for professional and academic growth. So it's a very all-encompassing scholarship. And another core component of the Gilman International Scholarship is to also build or paint a more representative and diverse narrative of Americans and the US abroad, right? So it does this by providing financial support to students of different backgrounds whose voices and experiences abroad are often represented. So as we see here on the PowerPoint, we have students of first generation, multicultural, students from rural backgrounds. And since its inception, Gilman has been pretty effective in allowing and providing financial support for various students of these different communities to go abroad. And so you're probably wondering, financial support, that's great. Money, even better. Well, how much are we talking about? Right? And so the answer is the following. So students can be awarded up to $5,000 worth of funds from the Gilman program, and that can be used to cover various different costs from the study abroad program or overall abroad process itself. So that includes tuition and fees, room and boarding, airfares, health insurance. And so the versatility of these funds makes the experience and opportunity a lot more tangible for students. I know for me personally, after I received the funds, I used a portion to cover my airfare costs, and then I used another portion to cover my daily sustenance when I was in Thailand. So spending it on travel, food, accommodations, and also traveling around different countries while I was abroad as well. And I should reiterate that recipients can receive up to $5,000 worth of funds. It's not guaranteed. So there are three main components that really contribute to the amount of funds that applicants will receive. And those three components are: one is the strength of the applicant's application, and then also program costs, and also the financial needs of the student that is applying. And what's also really nice about the scholarship is that it is applicable to any type of program. So there's no limit in the program that the funds can be geared towards. So it can be a fall semester, spring semester, during the summer, winter, or even for a whole academic year. And another question that's often received with the scholarship is, it sounds wonderful, it's amazing, but what are the chances that I'm actually going to receive a scholarship? And chances of receiving a Gilman scholarship, students have a 1 in 4 chance. And I do believe students that are eligible, as long as there's dedication and time that's put into the application, I really truly believe a lot of students that are eligible have the ability to receive the scholarship as well. So the general scholarship, students have the ability to receive up to $5,000. But students that are looking to receive that are looking to study a critical language in a country where that language is predominantly spoken can also apply to receive a supplemental of $3,000 on top of that Gilman scholarship as well, right? And students studying a critical needs language in a country where the language is predominantly spoken, the application is similar as the overall general Gilman application, except there is an additional essay that needs to be considered with this award as well. And then if students also win the critical need language award, they will also have to complete an oral proficiency interview following their award as well. And I do want to mention that for some of the languages, studying the language in the actual host country might not be feasible. So, for example, we see that Russian is here, but students aren't allowed to actually study Russian in Russia. But I believe there are also intermediate countries that also host the critical need language that is wanting to be studied. And if students are interested, I'm more than happy to direct them to the resources and also provide more information on those intermediate countries as well. Okay, so just a little bit of my Gilman scholarship experience. Honestly, I'll try to condense this as much as I can. I was telling Andrea, it's so hard, you can talk about your experiences for hours, but overall, very, very transformative and amazing experience. And as I stated before, I was able to study abroad in Chiang Mai, Thailand through the university's Study Abroad Consortium program. And I am a sociology major and political science minor. And so while I was there, I got to study Thai and overall Southeast Asian society, politics, and migration. It was very transformative, and it was very interesting to see the things that we perceive to be as normal here are very different in other aspects of the world. And I got to see that in the classroom at Chiang Mai University, but also even just walking the streets of Chiang Mai, right? So, as an example, with politics, I would say being here as an American, we're very vocal about our opinions and our stances on certain political issues. When I was over abroad in Thailand, politics was definitely not something that was normal. There were heavy lay magistrate laws that, could provide criminal punishment to those that talk bad about the government or the monarchy. So any type of political conversation was avoided. So that was just a very interesting dynamic to experience and navigate in my academic in my academics. And also, Buddhism was a predominant religion within Thailand. So, aspects of it you can see everywhere when you're walking around in Thailand, specifically in Chiang Mai. There were a lot of Buddhist monks, there were a lot of temples, and there was Buddhism just embedded into the curriculum as well. And that practice of mindfulness and being present within your academics and within yourself was very much prioritized among teachers and other administrators as well. So again, very wonderful dynamics. I had the amazing opportunity, and through the financial support that I had with Gilman, I had the opportunity to study or to travel to other countries, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Malaysia. And that was also very amazing. You got to see the different dynamics there. And as you can see from the PowerPoint, I met amazing individuals during my study abroad trip. We were a tight knit group of 75 people, and we still keep in contact to this day. So you really are there building long lasting relationships with just amazing people. And overall, my experience led me to it created a pathway where I better understood what I wanted in terms of my academic and finances. Before I went abroad, I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my interests are. But then I had the opportunity of being an English teaching assistant at a temple where I helped teach English to Buddhist monks, and that helped me discover my passion of education and teaching as well. And that led me to pursue opportunities of teaching coming back from Thailand. So those opportunities again provided a pathway for me, and I learned a lot about how to be adaptable in my environment and also just a heightened sense of independency. I'm a Guyanese woman. My family, they're very strict. They're very much, they're helping me along the sidelines for most of my academic journey. And, I was abroad, I had no family and friends. So I learned how to navigate this space, this town, this country by myself. And of course you have resources, but it's very different doing it alone as a student, but it's very much an important skill that you will learn to grow and develop. So that's a little bit about my experience. And again, there are amazing benefits that come from the Gilman Scholarship Program, and I just want to go over a little bit of what that is. So after completing your term abroad as a Gilman recipient, and after you have completed your follow-on service project within 6 months of returning, and we will talk a little bit more about that follow-on service project later in the presentation. But after those two components are complete, your status from a Gilman recipient changes to being you are now a Gilman alum or alumna. And so there are many different benefits and opportunities that come with this status change. So essentially, a core benefit of being a Gilman alumni is the non-competitive eligibility. And so I'm going to go ahead and explain it. It's a little bit complicated. So if anyone has any questions, again, go ahead and jump in at any point. But essentially, what non-competitive eligibility is it allows U.S. agencies to choose different eligible exchange program alumna outside of the typical competitive job application posting or pool. So the way I like to think of it is think of it as boarding an airplane. You know, Gilman alumni are considered, we're first class, right? We get first access into boarding the plane, and then the other passengers follow us after that. So that's kind of how non-competitive eligibility works. We get prioritized with certain federal jobs, and you are able to skip ahead to the front of a line for different jobs. Essentially, you're prioritized, if that makes sense. Again, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and let me know. It is a very confusing topic, but that is a really core component of or core benefit that a lot of the Gilman alumni utilize in their 12-month span. So non-competitive eligibility, it starts as soon as you return from your study abroad program, and it's extended for 12 months. And I believe it can be extended for up to 3 years, but there are certain circumstances where it can be extended. So, for example, if after your program you served as a military member or you attended a highly recognized academic institution, then there's a possibility that that can be extended as well. And another benefit is overall the Gilman Scholar Network, right? So we're introduced to a network of thousands of other Gilman recipients and alumni, and we get access to exclusive job posting and different like training and webinars. And it's really great. I've attended some myself about international relations and learning, and it's, again, a lot of opportunity, and it really helped me navigate my academics going forward. And another big benefit is the Alumni Ambassador Program. So essentially, that is what I am a part of as well right now. So we serve as official U.S. representatives of the Gilman International Program. And so we go to different universities and provide testimonials and extend the knowledge of the Gilman program in general. And it's also a wonderful opportunity. The training is based in DC, so we got to meet a wonderful cohort of individuals, and then we got to advocate for the Gilman funding at the US Capitol, and got to see a bunch of different representatives and senators, and again, very wholesome and transformative experience. So those are some of the benefits that are associated with the scholarship program. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about eligibility. So in order to be eligible for this scholarship, applicants must be a U.S. national or citizen. You must be an undergraduate student in good academic standing. And then applicants also need to be either one, a Pell Grant recipient at the time that they're applying, or two, they need to show proof that they will be a Pell Grant recipient during their study abroad term. Okay, and then another eligibility requirement is that the program must be credit bearing, and that the program must be within a country that has an overall travel advisory of level 1 or 2 or approved level 3 exception location. So a little bit of what travel advisory means, that essentially just means, how the safety of the overall country, and if, the level of safety you'll have to exercise within that country. So for level 1, you would exercise normal precaution. The political, social, and public health landscape is very positive within that country. So the overall safety of your well-being will be really good. And then 2, it's just, again, an increased level of precaution. Maybe there are certain parts of the country with political or social turmoil or certain public health crises, but the overall country itself is still relatively safe. And then the level 3 is you're going to want to consider traveling to a different country. And the level 3 exceptions are posted weekly on the Gilman website as well. So if anyone is interested in traveling to a country that potentially might have a travel advisory of level 3, I'd be more than happy to provide more information to see if that country is also an exception as well. And another eligibility requirement, well, in this case, there is no minimum length requirement, so students can be going for a semester, for winter, for a whole year, and that's completely fine. The funds will be eligible for any of those types of programs. And before I continue, does anyone have any questions regarding eligibility or benefits or any of the things we've covered so far? I know it was kind of a lot, so I just wanted to give anyone an opportunity for questions.
They also place any questions in the chat box, and I'm happy to help assist with those questions.
Perfect.
I don't see any at the moment, but I'll keep my eye on it and let you know.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. So I will keep going. Okay, so on top of the Gilman Scholarship Program, so there is also an award where recipients can receive up to $5,000 for child or spousal dependents of active duty service members. So the eligibility is pretty much the same as the overall general Gilman scholarship application, except another requirement is that the recipient at the time has to be either an active or previously active military member, and they have to be a recipient of any type of Title IV federal financial aid. And of course, they have to have a dependent, child, or spouse of active or activated United States military personnel. And again, I'll provide more information on the application on this going forward. And it is similar as the overall general Gilman application as well. Okay, so selection criteria. So as I mentioned before, the type of funds that you receive or the amount of funds you receive does depend on the strength of your application, right? So there are certain criteria that you're going to want to keep in mind when you start your application. There's a lot of information, so I'll kind of try to break it down individually, but let's start with the impact of program and destination on students' academic and career trajectory. So essentially with this component, it's important that you're making a strong connection between the proposed program, the proposed study abroad program, and the future of your academic and career pathways or goals. So in regard to your study abroad program, you're going to want to think about and answer why this program and why this specific country, and how will it benefit your life and your academic and career goals going forward, right? And then tying Gilman into that. How is Gilman going to help support the achievement of these different goals? Okay, and then we have community impact abroad and upon students' return home. And again, I want to reiterate that a core component is to create mutual understanding. So how will you be an effective diplomat in your country? Because that's essentially what you're going to be when you're studying abroad. You know, are you going to prioritize learning the language? Are you going to prioritize, maybe joining a local club or community event, or celebrate different holidays? What are the ways you are going to learn about this culture, but also, you know, communicate facets of your own culture as well and practice that reciprocity. And then we have academic preparedness. So the selection panel also just wants to know that you are in tune with your academics, and that is also a priority while you're going abroad. And again, just really thinking about what are your academic strengths, what are your academic areas of improvement, and how are you going to find that balance when you are studying abroad. Right, and then one of the last core components is diversity of background and experience. And with this, I just say, tell your personal story. So make this application truly yours and really communicate how your identity, your background, or exposure to opportunities or lack thereof have an influence on your want and desire to study abroad. And again, how has that led you to the Gilman program as well? And then also if you are applying for the critical need language scholarship, you're also going to want to talk about the language itself and your passions and drive behind communicating and speaking in this language. And again, tying that back to how are you going to, what are your plans of learning the language while you're there, but also how will you continue to use this language going forward in your academic and career goals as well. Okay, so here is the overall deadline. And as you can see, for the October 2022 deadline has already passed. So for those looking to study abroad, maybe in summer of 2023, fall of 2023, or the academic year of 2024, you're going to want to take a look at the March deadline. So the March deadline is March 16th, 2023. And again, we can go over any questions we have about breaking down that timeline, but also I'll be going over the different application components that are needed as well. And I just want to reiterate that both of these deadlines is the whole entire Gilman cycle. And so this cycle encompasses summer of 2023, fall of 2023, academic year of 2023 to 2024, and any spring 2024 programs as well. Okay, and then I will also just take a minute for anyone that is interested in pulling up, that one pager for both the Gilman and Gilman McCain scholarship. You can go ahead and do that now. This is the QR code, but I can also make sure this is accessible after the presentation as well. But I'll go ahead and keep that up for just a few moments. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and continue on to the rest of the presentation, but again, I can make sure that access to both of these one pagers is accessible after the presentation. Okay, so now we're going to dig a little bit into the different application components. So there are two steps to the overall application. So there is the student application that is comprised of 3 essays. And if you're, again, studying for the Critical Needs Language Award, you will need a total of 4 essays and then an unofficial transcript as well. So that is the student application. And then there is the advisor certifications that need to take place once the application from the student is submitted. And students also have the autonomy of choosing their study abroad advisor and financial aid advisor as well. And again, once the student submits their application, both advisors must certify the application for it to be considered. Okay, so we're going to go over a little bit of the essays that are required. So the first essay is the statement of purpose. And the maximum length for this is 7,000 characters, which is roughly a page and a half. So not too bad. So with this essay, the selection panelists, after reading this, should have a much more in-depth understanding of who you are, right? So it is a personal interview. You're going to talk about you, your background, your exposure to different opportunities, your goals. All that encompasses you should be in the statement of purpose, right? And how has all of these components of yourself, your background, your goals, how has that led you to studying abroad, and how has that led you to the Gilman program as well? And you also want to talk about certain challenges that you face, maybe in your academics or maybe in your life as well. And maybe even some challenges that you anticipate you'll have while you're abroad. And also, you're going to want to talk about, what are some of the ways you see yourself looking to overcome those different obstacles that you will potentially face. And so, some questions to keep in mind when crafting your statement of purpose is, again, what is the connection between the program and your goals? And again, the country, why is it the specific country? And what's the connection between your country and your goals? And then, how do you plan on being academically successful on your programs? And again, just listing the different experience, skills, and backgrounds. Okay, so the second essay that is required is the community impact or building mutual understanding. And again, this is where you're going to really want to hone down on how you will be an effective diplomat or ambassador while you are abroad, right? So you're going overall, when you're abroad, you're going to have to answer a lot of questions about what it means to be American and what it means in general to be a US citizen. This is something that I personally have experienced, and some of my other friends who have studied abroad have experienced. So it's really important that you spend some time to unpack that. And I know it can seem like a very vague question in the sense where it's like, well, we're all part of the US, like how can it be different? But we all come from different backgrounds and experiences that shape the way we see America and our place as citizens in the country. As an example, I'm a Guyanese student, low income student that grew up in rural Minnesota, and my opportunities and exposure and background is very different from someone who is white and affluent or perhaps grew up in the city as well. So, really just unpacking those differences and different aspects of your identity and how you plan to communicate that abroad. And again, the maximum for this essay is 3,000 characters as well. And again, you're going to want to talk about how will you seek different opportunities to be culturally engaged and immersive in your environment as well. Right? And these are some of the questions you're going to want to ask yourself as well. So how will you plan to represent the US as a diplomat while you're abroad? And that goes back to what, some of the examples, like learning the language, participating in certain ceremonies or different events, not just about sharing your culture, but also learning the culture and ways of your host community and country as well is very important. And then again, mutual understanding, that should be the core of how you're building your application, your essay for this application. Okay, and lastly, for the general Gilman application, you will need to fill out the follow-on service project proposal, or complete the follow-on service project proposal. And so with this, the core question you're going to want to think about with your follow-on service project. So how do you plan to share your cultural and immersive experience from your host country upon returning to the United States? Again, how do you plan on practicing that reciprocity? And for the follow-on service project, it has to be completed within 6 months following your return to the United States. So I do also advise just making sure that you craft a project that is very feasible and timely for your own schedule and also for the timeline as well. And you're going to want to think about, the host community in your home and like the resources and individuals that you have access to when you're thinking of ideas for your follow-on service project. So just for an example, my follow-on service project, I created a visual of myself and 4 other Gilman alumni who were also Gustavus students, and I shared the different aspects of our different experiences abroad and also our identity and what led us to Gilman. So it was a visual representation. I had a lot of commentary that I was able to record with my friends, but it was very easy access, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't information or resources that I didn't really have access to. So again, just very much going into detail and considering all components of your follow-on service project is very important. And the maximum characters for this essay is 3,000 characters as well. And again, some follow-on service project proposal questions that you're going to want to ask yourself and unpack to really craft your essay. And again, for this follow-on service project, you're going to want to think about, well, how can I also, share my experience abroad, but also how can I share my experience abroad as a Gilman recipient and raise awareness of the Gilman Scholarship Program to other students and other community members as well. And I would also advise, for question 5, it's really important to figure out like who your audience is. Is it general community members? Is it students, administrators? Figuring out that audience is very core in that follow-on service project proposal as well. Okay, so those were the 3 main Gilman scholarship application components. And again, if you're studying a critical need language and applying for the award, you'll also have a 4th essay, and the maximum for this is 2,000 characters. And then in this, you're going to want to explain more depth about the language itself, explaining is it a critical need language and which country is it predominantly spoken at, and how are you going to be using this language going forward outside of the program? As it says, how does it relate to your academic and career goals as well? Okay, perfect. So we're getting towards the end of the application, so I just want to go over some of the tips that we have for a lot of applications, for a lot of applicants. And a main one is, again, making sure you're creating a compelling story. the selection panelists are reading numerous applications a day, right? And so you're always going to want to gauge their attention with a story. I we also advise, staying away from those general statements of growing up or when I was a kid, you know, staying away from those general introduction phrases just because it could kind of, steer away from that compelling aspect. But again, making it we always, recommend starting with a story of your past and your background to narrate a little bit about yourself, and then how does that relate now to your wanting of studying abroad and also your academic and career future going forward. I do also want to say this is a very time consuming application. It is doable, but it is definitely not something that you're going to want to start and complete the night before. Myself, I'm a huge procrastinator, right? And completing this application really helped me, steer away from that, because part of the application is really spending time unpacking your life so far, and really taking the time to think about what you want going forward, right? It's a great opportunity to reflect. We also recommend, starting a journal. So just writing out whatever comes to mind is so important. I know for me personally, when I do applications, I get very, in my head about, does this make sense? Is this what they're going to want to hear? But again, steering away from that, just making sure you're presenting yourself in an authentic and true manner, and just writing out and telling your story as real and natural and personal as it is to you as well is so important. And again, follow-on service project, you're going to want to think about the community that you're in and making sure it's feasible as well. And again, I'm more than happy to talk more about my own follow-on service project if anyone is looking for ideas. And then again, talking about the feasibility is very important. But again, reaching out to your study abroad advisor with any questions and concerns on the follow-on service project is also highly recommended. Yay, so we're towards the end. That was a lot of information, but again, we hope that we hope to encourage all of you, if feasible or eligible, to apply to this Gilman scholarship. It's a very, very amazing scholarship, and it really did, personally for me and for a lot of students, was the reason we were able to pursue studying abroad and got to experience amazing and life-changing opportunities. So we hope you can stay connected and want to learn more about the Gilman Scholarship. We have accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And going forward, there are some other exchange programs that if you want to learn more information about, we'd be more than happy to provide some resources surrounding these other ECA resources as well. Like I mentioned, the Fulbright U.S. Student Program and the Boren Scholarship and fellowship opportunities as well. So that is available at studyabroad.state.gov. And again, if you have any questions about how to get in contact with advisors from these different programs, please let us know as well. Perfect. And that is our contact information. So going through this, after the presentation, if you have any questions or any concerns, please go ahead and reach out via this email and number. And again, if anyone here is considering to apply, I will also be posting my personal email and number as well. If you have any questions or need any assistance with the application materials, I'm more than happy to help as well. But I believe that is it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Samantha. This is great information. I'm going to just go ahead and place my email in the chat box as well. So if anyone has any questions about the Gilman Scholarship or study abroad in general, you can email studyabroad@uwstout.edu, and we are happy to help you out. When students are applying for the Gilman, we really do encourage you to reach out to us. Myself and the director of our office are able to kind of read through your essays, give you some pointers, and also can direct you in the direction of the Writing Center. definitely go to the Writing Center and they can help you, craft your essays in a meaningful way. So does anyone, if anyone has any questions, you can definitely pop your microphone on or place them in the chat box. But I did want to also give Hannah Waldner an opportunity to introduce herself because she is one of your peers here at Stout who has studied abroad recently and been a recipient of the Gilman Scholarship. So Hannah, do you want to take a couple minutes just to talk about your program a little bit and some of the highlights and what the Gilman meant to you or how it helped you in your program? I think you might be muted, Hannah.
Well, yeah, there I am. So, I mean, Samantha covered pretty much everything that I would have talked about anyway, but it is a very helpful, and she was right. Like, I'm also a procrastinator, and making those meetings at the writing center with Scott, um, those really helped me keep me on task on doing the scholarship applications. Um, my experience, so I just was in Italy, and it was a great experience. It was really, really good. Um, I, I, I only have good things to say about it, really. Um, can't really think. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
How did you use your funds for your program?
Well, that was actually kind of weird because we talked about today how the if your a travel advisory is above like a 3, in Italy last year we were just getting past COVID, so it went up to a 4, and I got a different scholarship, but I used it for travel. I used it for um, food and things like that, and I paid for my classes over there with it.
Right. Yes, you were in a unique situation. Unfortunately, you were granted the Gilman, but then because it was a level 4, you weren't able to use it. But you were granted the equivalent funds to, so it was
Yes.
the equivalent of the Gilman to still go. So
So basically, that just means they are going to their best to get you to wherever you're going, no matter what.
thank you very much. Well, does anyone have any questions? I see there's
Yeah,
questions
I
not
was
answered in the chat box. So that's
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, Logan, thank you very much for your question. So I will say that applicants must be a Pell Grant recipient at the time of the application, or again, show proof that they will be a Pell Grant recipient during their actual study abroad program. And so if they aren't receiving a Pell Grant recipient at all, then they are unfortunately not eligible for the Gilman application.
great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, of course.
If you want to go ahead and stop sharing your screen. There.
Yes, I will go ahead and do that. Okay,
There we go.
perfect.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Well, with that, I want to thank Samantha for being here today and sharing information about the Gilman and your story as well. And Hannah, thank you for sharing your story, your experience. So again,
Thank
if
you.
anyone has a, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you so much, Andrea, for this opportunity. It was so wonderful, and Hannah, it was really nice to meet you and learn more about your experience. That's so cool.
Yeah, of course.
And again, if anyone has any questions here at Stout, you can email studyabroad@uwstout.edu. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.